1, 2, 3. A couple months ago, I watched The Hills Have Eyes numero dos. And you get me, baby. What the f? That shit is traumatizing. I was up at like 1 in the morning like, no way, that shit is happening right now, what the fuck? Bruh, even if my mom had me close my eyes during some scenes in the movie, I could still hear. That shit is traumatizing enough. Anyways, I grew up thinking that The Hills Have Eyes was a true story that happened where I live in New Mexico. Imagine how that made me feel. Well, now, as a 20-year-old, I have found out and done the research to share with you guys that not only is it true, but thank God it's not in where I live, but it's true. That is where I come in, and that is where I tell you guys the story of The Hills Have Eyes. I'm sure the movies were very much dramatized. Let's just get into it. Let's get into the details. Once upon a true story, there was a guy named Sonny Bean. He lived in Lothian, Scotland. Lothian, Scotland. Sonny Bean lived with his father, who dug ditches and trimmed hedges. Mr. Bean was gonna take on after his father and follow after his trail, but he ended up picking a completely other twisted trail. He ends up meeting his wife, a woman named Black Agnes Douglas. They had so much in common. For example, they both wanted a bunch of kids. They both, I'm guessing, were antisocial. And they both decided to live in a cave away from humanity by Galway coast. Oh yeah, but I forgot to mention the most important thing they had in common. They both loved meat. To be specific, human meat. That's right, Sonny Bean and Agnes Douglas were cannibals, and now they lived in a very secluded cave. So as you can imagine, this made their guilty pleasure much more easy to get away with, especially back in the day. Because remember, this is all said to take place in 1719, so the 1700s. Also, y'all, I cannot make this up. Yesterday, while I was doing the research for this video, I was watching Disenchantment and listened to what they say.
Who killed Pendergast? The walls have eyes. That makes no sense. Stupid Ball. Erase that answer. Ow! What the hell, Ball?
The universe said this is a good idea. They lived in this cave and they were so secluded. They had kids, and their kids had kids. And then those kids had kids, and it just kept going for 25 years to be exact. All while killing and humans and eating them and feeding them to their children who had kids with their siblings. Although it's not official, it's said that there was over 50 siblings or people, family members, living in the caves, and they all shared the love for meat, and that's what they would eat. Okay, so my question is, do you guys think that the kids thought it was normal, you know, like just the everyday way of life? Do you think they knew there was like something else and then that was like not okay, you know? Or do you think they was just like, yeah, this is life, this is how we live, you know? Do y'all get what I'm saying with that? Because, like, it's horrible. That's not what I'm trying to say. But, like, they were raised knowing nothing else, you know? So, did they know it was horrible and wrong? Let me know in the comments. Okay, but I found this quote. Let me read it to you. Quote unquote, clueless travelers who unfortunately came across their hunting grounds. They would capture people by night and dismember their victims in the cave before pickling, salting, and eating the body parts. So, like, how did they get pickles and salt if they never left, like, their cave, you know? How did they know what pickles and salt were? Like, did the parents go to town? And if so, how did no one see something was wrong with them? I don't know, y'all. I try to dig deeper and it just Let me know what y'all think. On a more serious note, it is said that they killed over 1,000 people and ate them, and this includes men, women, and children. So this all came to a halt or a stop whenever a man and his wife were horseback riding, and they were kidnapped basically by the Bean family to be eaten, and the husband got away. Sadly, his wife didn't get away. Because the husband got away, he was able to alert the authorities. Okay, no, y'all, not the authorities. It said the king. Yeah, I guess there were still kings in the 1719s, but we are talking about like Scotland. Yeah, Scotland. The King of Scotland sent about 400 people to the caves, and they found a lot. I'll just read you the quote. As many of them as could went in, and were all so shocked at what they beheld that they were almost ready to sink into the earth. Legs, arms, thighs, hands, and feet of men, women, and children were hung up in rows, like dried beef. A great many limbs lay in pickle, and a great mass of money, both gold and silver, with watches, rings, swords, pistols, and a large quantity of clothes, both linen and woolen, and an infinite number of other things, which they had taken from those whom they had murdered, were thrown together in heaps or hung up against the sides of the den. So after that, everyone from the Bean family was taken and executed. But while doing my research, I found this quote, and I wanted to get your guys' opinion. Because I have an opposing opinion. They did horrendous things to them, broke them on the wheel, hanged the women in front of the men, and then they dismembered the men. And I was so struck by how on the one hand you have this pharaoh family that's killing people and eating them, but if you look at it, they weren't doing anything that much worse than civilization did when they caught them. And I just thought, what a great kind of A-B of culture. How the most civilized can be the most savage, and how the most savage can be civilized. I constructed these two families as mirrors of each other. I found it very interesting to look at ourselves, to think of ourselves as having the capacity not only for great good, but for great evil. And that's the difference, I think, for great, keyword great evil. You know, we're not the ones just going out and doing this shit bloopy blop for no reason. You know, they did it first. But that brings back to the other moral dilemma, you know, if the kids were grown only in that, did they know that it was wrong, you know, or did they just think that was like the everyday way of life, you know? So that's why I want y'all's opinion, because it's kind of like on the line, you know. Like, I do think they deserved to be, like, but, you know, I don't think maybe that, like, the dismembered part and stuff, maybe a little too much. Because I think even nowadays we should go back to then and, like, literally people's heads, specifically, like, literally them. Either had their choice. So choose wisely. So yeah, that's the truth about the Hills Have Eyes. You're welcome. I highly doubt anyone said thank you, but you're welcome. I hope you all enjoyed and had fun learning this information. I don't know. Just be glad you weren't raised like me, believing you were right next to the Bean family. Anyways, stay tuned and sweet dreams.